Hey, good morning. I'm Patricia Murphy. It's Tuesday. This is Seattle Now. Food assistance benefits are delayed for millions of Americans, but even before the recent political and legal fight over SNAP funding, food insecurity was already a major problem. Here in Seattle, more people are visiting food banks and food prices are on the rise. Coming up, we'll talk with Jen Musée at the Ballard Food Bank to find out how they're adapting. But first, let's get you caught up. This afternoon, Democratic Congressman Adam Smith will host a roundtable about the Affordable Care Act. Government-subsidized premiums from the ACA allow millions of Americans to afford to buy health care. Extending those premium subsidies into 2026 is the central issue in the current federal government shutdown. The roundtable starts at 2 p.m. and will feature both health care and insurance experts. Hey there, early risers. If the sky is clear tomorrow morning, make sure to check out the supermoon. That's when the moon is full during its closest approach to Earth, making it look extra large. It's called a beaver moon when it occurs in November. The moon will be the closest and look the brightest at 5:19 a.m. And final reminder, it's Election Day. Mailed ballots must be postmarked today, but at this point, it's probably better to use a drop box. The U.S. Postal Service has warned it can't guarantee ballots will be postmarked on time. Ballot boxes are open until 8 p.m. tonight. Check back for more headlines on tonight's episode of Seattle Now, and we'll have election results tomorrow morning. Two federal rulings on Friday ordered the Trump administration to continue funding SNAP during the government shutdown. On Saturday, people were supposed to receive their food assistance benefits for November, but they never came. This week, the Trump administration said it would partially fund benefits this month. And for many people, delayed benefits or even the threat of losing food assistance is disruptive and stressful.
My name is Deborah White. I've been living here at Plymouth Housing, Simon Langston Building since 2008. I've been watching the World Series, so dinner has been a bag of popcorn during the game. I'm going with Toronto. They're both good, but I like Toronto. I think they're doing really good.
Deb White is one of the 930,000 people in Washington state who receive SNAP benefits every month. We visited her last Thursday at her apartment in Belltown before the federal courts intervened and before the Toronto Blue Jays ultimately lost the World Series. She lives at the Simons Senior Apartments, which is run by Plymouth Housing.
When I was homeless, that food stamp card was the only thing I had for money. That was it. You can buy cold food with the food stamp card. And that was it. I think at the beginning I was getting around $200 here in Washington.
Nowadays, Deb receives $110 a month in SNAP benefits. Plymouth Housing also provides 3 community meals a week. We asked Deb how she'll manage if her benefits are cut.
I'm just going to have to budget carefully and look at those community meals and take advantage of those when I can. Go by the food banks. It might be long lines. I think if there's a really long line, I'll wait and rely more on my budgeting. We just have to see how long this government shutdown is going to be. That's all I can do is, just try not to get depressed. I do walk. I try to make a walk around the city every day, go down to the waterfront, and just try to be happy and try to get sleep and mainly not to worry. It's like that movie, One More Battle, you just have to be strong and keep going. And it's hard to do sometimes.
Like many people who rely on food assistance, Deb told us she likes to be economical when it comes to buying groceries, and she might change up her meal planning while things are so uncertain.
I do like start a really routine breakfast and lunch. For breakfast, I'll have oatmeal every day. It's very inexpensive. Before I was eating like yogurt and fruit, but the fruit is so expensive, the berries and the strawberries. But oatmeal, you can eat that with raisins. So I'm eating oatmeal and raisins. And for lunch, I might do either tuna fish or peanut butter sandwich every day. And that gets me 2 meals that I'm going to do every day. They're economical.
Deb says people can help by purchasing gift cards from grocery stores and handing them out to people who are homeless, in addition to donating food and money to food banks. And she ended our conversation with this thought.
It's so easy to get angry and point fingers and yell and scream, and in a way that helps to let off steam. But in the long run, being happy and helping your neighbors if you can will do more to help you get through the crisis. I mean, everybody's in this. We're all in it together.
Meanwhile, the city of Seattle is providing emergency assistance to local food banks for the next 2 months. But even before these funding threats to SNAP, Seattle area food banks were struggling with increasing costs and higher demand. When delayed benefits do arrive, they'll be cut in half. That's likely to lead to an increase in visitors. Jen Muse is the executive director of the Ballard Food Bank. She's here to tell us more. Jen, thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. We're learning that SNAP benefits lapsed on Saturday. Partial funding is set to be restored at this point, but the time frame isn't clear. How are you thinking about everything that's happened recently?
You know, it's really been a roller coaster. We're constantly thinking about how we need to adjust and really what this means for our community. And it's scary, right? To think about how are you going to put food on your table.
What are you anticipating this week at the Ballard Food Bank?
We're anticipating increased need. We're anticipating more visitors, more people coming in to shop, probably people who may have not been here with us before. You know, there's so many things happening, including with the federal workers losing wages. And so we're also anticipating, folks like that who might be visiting a food bank for the first time.
That's an important point. There are a lot of workers who are furloughed at this point from the federal government due to the shutdown in conjunction with this SNAP situation. What has the general volume been like at the food bank over the past few weeks?
I guess I would back up a little bit because, we have just grown exponentially over the past, since COVID. We tripled the number of people coming into the food bank since pre-COVID numbers. And so when I think back to where we were then, we had maybe 3,200 household visits and deliveries a month.
Wow.
And now we're averaging 10,000 plus a month. So there's just been this layered effect, really, of, when they rolled back those SNAP increases that they made during COVID, we saw a 30% increase.
10,000 a month.
Mm-hmm. And we saw another, a large increase again the year after. And so, going back to your question around what it's looked like the past month, we're just already seeing an enormous increase. That means folks are really struggling with inflation. It's just harder to feed your family.
And I would imagine for the people you serve, even the threat of losing their SNAP benefits is stressful.
Oh, it's so stressful. And I think it's also confusing, right? Because even as folks like you who are following the news and I'm following the news, we don't really know exactly what these decisions mean and how long they will be in effect. So I think even the news that, they're going to restore them at 50%, when will that happen? What does that really mean? And when you're already barely making it, a 50% cut is huge to people.
As we've been talking about, unrelated to the federal shutdown, the tax and spending bill supported by the Trump administration and passed by Congress makes some big changes to SNAP. Work requirements change. The bill also shifts more costs from the federal government to the states. We talked about increased demand. How is the Ballard Food Bank anticipating this increased demand? How are you managing it?
I'll admit it's actually tough. I think that, back in the day, I used to be able to tell people, we'll have, no matter what time of the day you shop, we will have food for you. And I can't say that anymore. Now I find ourselves running out of food. And so we've been having to make adjustments over time with our budget. For example, we stopped purchasing eggs.
Wow.
Because we couldn't buy enough. They were become so costly. We couldn't buy enough to feed everyone. And we realized if we could use those dollars on other foods that could go further, we should purchase those. So similarly, we've been really reconsidering meat and have stopped purchasing meat at the moment. Just put it on hold as we anticipate more people coming in and our need to shift to buying more staples. So those are the types of decisions we're having to make and think about in terms of anticipated increased volumes. How do we make sure we have food for the folks coming in?
I think it might be surprising to some people that the food bank buys food, that your food isn't somehow donated or made available to you at a low cost.
Right. I mean, I think depending on the food bank, we're all different, right? We all serve our community in different ways, but a lot of us are purchasing food. We do get government commodities that come in. We get donated foods. We go out to our local grocery stores. We recover food and bring it back and sort it and put it on our shelves. At the same time, though, we do have to purchase food. We're all doing different things to be nimble and scrappy. For us, we've been farming. We get food comes in from our pea patches, from the farmers market. Our food bank is really focused on how do we purchase more fresh produce, making sure we have culturally appropriate meats and proteins, and really looking at how we meet the different dietary needs of our community members. And so we're really thinking about that as people come in, and we're trying to, our food bank is set up as a grocery store. So when people come in, they're having a natural shopping experience, and we try to meet the different dietary and cultural needs of our community members. But to do that, we have to purchase.
It's a lot of balancing right now, it sounds like.
It is. One thing I will say that I'm grateful for is that our community sees that. And they are stepping up. And it's something that gives me hope every day, is that we really have a community that cares so much for their neighbors, cares so much for the folks coming in. I mean, the folks coming in are grandparents, they're families, they're people who are working. They live in this community. They're kids that are in school here, right? They're college students, elementary age students, people with multiple jobs, working in the service industry, you name it. Those are the people coming in. And when our community sees that folks are going to be losing food, they donate and they support, whether they're donating funds, food, or they're donating their time by volunteering.
I'm glad you brought up the different kinds of people that show up at the food bank, because I have a theory about this upset around SNAP, is that it is giving people who may have been on the edge permission and the idea and the ability to show up at the food bank for the first time.
Similar to COVID, I called it this pandemic-inspired empathy at the time, where folks were so much more, there was a lot of judgment removed from folks having to access services during the pandemic. And the thing is, and I know so many food banks share in these values that we hold at Ballard Food Bank, is that there is no judgment. If you need help, it's really hard to ask for help. It's really hard to say, I need help feeding my family. And so we really want to make sure folks know that they are welcome to come in to shop, whether they've been a furloughed federal worker, whether they've just lost their job, whether they have really high medical bills and they're trying to make ends meet. There's all these different scenarios, but our system doesn't catch all those scenarios the way it should. And so that's why there's food banks. That's why we have this emergency solution. One of the things with us is we really look like a grocery store. We look like a PCC. We have a cafe, the Kindness Cafe, where people can sit down and have an amazing meal. We also have our community resource hub that helps people navigate different services. And so when folks come in, I like to think that maybe their kids won't ever know that they actually were at a food bank, because the experience they had was filled with dignity and a sense of belonging, and it looked no different than their grocery store.
What else do you think people should know before I let you go?
I would just really encourage folks, and I know food banks need this, so look up your local food bank. Google it, find it, and make sure that you know who they are. Support that local food bank through funds, through time, whether you can donate food. Those are all ways you can help your community right now. And I'll just add, I don't know how long this will go. That bit of uncertainty, that 50% of benefit, how long is that going to go? And I do know, though, that that's not enough to feed a family. So people are, grandparents are skipping meals, right? So their grandkids can have a meal. Parents are doing that, right? So I think we really need to think about how we support our community right now to make sure that no one's skipping meals and that we can make sure people have the food they need.
Jen Musée is the executive director of the Ballard Food Bank. Thank you so much for the conversation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you listening to Seattle Now. Today's episode was produced by Andy Hurst. It was edited by Caroline Chamberlain Gomez. Our production team also includes Vaughn Jones, Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and Paige Browning. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you soon.